Let's say your child comes to you and says, I'm bored. And almost immediately, your mind starts to try to solve it. Should I switch on the TV? Should I give the phone? Should I suggest an activity? Should I keep them entertained somehow? I think many parents experience this instinct very automatically nowadays because somewhere along the way, boredom has started feeling like something negative, something that must be removed quickly. But when we think about childhood earlier, boredom used to be a very normal part of growing up. Children would wait, they'd sit around, observe things, they'll make up games, they would talk random stuff, they would daydream, and they would wander around aimlessly. There were many moments when nothing particularly exciting was happening, and yet those moments were not necessarily considered harmful or a waste of time. Today, both children and adults have become deeply used to constant stimulation. The moment there is even a small pause, the instinct is to immediately consume something. Children today are growing up in environments with constant stimulation, with screens, with fast paced visuals, continuous entertainment, instant access to novelty, and background noise everywhere, and content available every second. The nervous system is constantly being activated, and over time, the brain slowly becomes less comfortable with stillness, slowness, and understimulation. The moment stimulation reduces, children quickly say, I'm bored. What should I do? Can I watch something? Can I have your phone? And honestly, adults are also not very different anymore. Most adults today also struggle with boredom. The minute there is a quiet moment, we reach for our phone, we open social media, we scroll something, we watch something, we consume content after content without any intention. It has become very difficult for modern nervous systems to simply remain unstimulated. And this matters because boredom is not actually useless. Boredom serves as an important developmental function. When external stimulation reduces, something else gets activated internally, like imagination, creativity, observation, problem solving, and independent thinking. A child who's not constantly entertained eventually starts creating engagement from within. But that process usually does not happen instantly. There is often an uncomfortable phase in between. And I think this is where many parents intervene too quickly. The child says, I am bored, and almost immediately the adult starts solving the discomfort. Because modern parenting environments have also conditioned adults to feel responsible for keeping the children continuously engaged. Somewhere along the way, boredom started feeling like ineffective parenting, as though every empty moment must be filled with activities, learning, screens, classes, or entertainment. But we have to remember that human nervous systems were not designed for constant stimulation. Children actually need slower moments. They need time where nothing exciting is happening because that is often where creativity develops, emotional processing happens, and independent play slowly emerges. Also, constant stimulation changes children's expectations from everyday life. When the brain becomes used to very fast reward cycles, ordinary activities can start feeling too slow. Simple play feels boring, conversations feel boring, waiting feels unbearable, quiet environments feel uncomfortable. When I was a child and I used to visit the bank with my parents, there would often be a waiting period of at least an hour. Nothing was instant in those days. But when I think about those memories now, I do not really associate them with boredom because doing nothing and simply waiting was part of growing up for us 30, 40 years ago. Now, as an adult, if I go somewhere and there's a waiting line, the immediate instinct is to pick up the phone and consume something. In fact, I rarely even go to the bank anymore because most banking tasks happen on the phone nowadays. I probably visit the bank only once or twice a year now. And that made me realize something important. Modern life has slowly removed many of the quiet, unstructured pauses that earlier generations experienced naturally. We no longer allow the mind to simply wait, observe, or remain unstimulated for even a few minutes. But actually, the brain needs that. We need moments of doing nothing. We need moments where the nervous system is not constantly consuming, reacting, scrolling, or processing stimulation. Sometimes the brain simply needs space to breathe. And this is one of the reasons why transitions away from screens often become emotionally difficult because the nervous system is moving from high stimulation to lower stimulation. That shift can genuinely feel uncomfortable for a child's developing brain. Now, this does not mean that screens are inherently bad. I think extreme conversations around screens often become unrealistic. Screens are part of modern life now. The real question is, are children also developing the ability to tolerate slower forms of engagement? Can they sit quietly, play independently, observe things, create imaginary games, experience boredom without immediate escape? Because those capacities matter deeply for emotional regulation later in life. Also, boredom teaches something emotionally important: the ability to stay with mild discomfort without needing immediate stimulation. And that ability is becoming weaker in both children and adults today. Even emotionally, boredom has value. Sometimes children process emotions during unstructured time. Sometimes imagination appears during silence. Sometimes creativity emerges only after the mind slows down. But if stimulation enters immediately every time discomfort appears, the nervous system never really learns how to settle on its own. And honestly, this is not only a parenting issue, this is a modern lifestyle issue now. Even homes today are highly stimulating environments. TV running in the background, phones constantly visible with notifications and rapid switching between tasks and continuous digital engagement. The nervous system rarely gets true rest, and children adapt themselves around these environments. I think one of the healthiest shifts parents can make is to stop viewing boredom as an emergency that needs to be resolved on an urgent priority. Not every moment needs to be optimized, not every silence needs to be filled, not every complaint of boredom needs immediate rescue. Sometimes the discomfort of boredom is actually the beginning of something important. Now, of course, this does not mean children should be ignored emotionally. Connection still matters deeply, but there is a difference between emotional connection and constant stimulation. Children need presence, but they do not need continuous entertainment every moment of the day. And honestly, some of the most meaningful childhood experiences often emerge from very ordinary, unstructured moments. A random game, a silly conversation, a made up story, watching rain outside, drawing random stuff, building something useless, running around aimlessly. Those moments may look unproductive from an adult perspective, but developmentally they are often very rich. Modern parenting has become heavily focused on optimization, more learning, more activities, more stimulation, and more engagement. But nervous systems also need slowness, space, rest, and boredom. Because children do not only need stimulation to grow, they also need room for their own inner world to develop. And perhaps one of the most valuable things we can give children today is not constant entertainment, but the ability to feel comfortable being present with themselves. For more thoughtful conversations on parenting, emotional regulation, and modern family life, do consider subscribing to this channel. Thank you for being here.